Hey, so I hope these folks over at the Rorschach Theater, located in the same building as the American Bar Association, the Washington Square building, I think is what it's called, here in Washington, D.C. You know what the problem is with copyright infringement when you're messing with an artist? Especially like a punk rock or a hardcore artist, because the system likes to shut us down. It means you're stealing from somebody who was either starving once or is currently starving and hungry and suffering simply because we have no access to money because we didn't join their free system or their Masonic system to take over the world from the USA, the red, white, and blue. Now, let's take a look at the Rorschach Theater and the hardcore images they have out front. And myself, as a homeless artist, indigent, mentally ill, and on disability, I suffer almost every single day here in Washington, D.C., my home city. And so I've heard that some people have taken my art and put it on products. Although no one actually told me that with lip service, because, hey, remember, mystical. There's a natural mystic flowing through the air. And if you want to learn about the United States of America, let me recommend a few films. One with Robert Duvall and Robert De Niro called True Confessions. One movie by Spike Lee called American Klansman. Another movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio and another man whose name I forget because he is less well-known, famous, especially in my own brain, I don't know his name, Blood Diamonds. And then start to think about what you thought was the past and think about the fact that it's actually today. Then if you want to get a little deeper, start looking at social issues and watch movies just to get the feeling in the heart to understand. Then if you want to understand what the suck is, living in the suck, watch the movie Jarhead. And now, let me tell you more about why I think it's really actually very, very bad to steal my art or anyone else's art if you're just taking it and, manipulating it so it's actually your art now. But the problem is when you manipulate a piece of art and you say it's your art now, is that it's not really. You're more of a graphic designer, a thief, or a criminal who should probably have to pay the artist. Now, I know that when artists make contracts that are righteous, there's two goals for an artist. One is to get an initial payment, and one is to get ongoing royalties, as it's called in the capitalist monetary system. You get ongoing royalties if you get a good contract as an artist. A few groundbreakers in this area, well, one of them was Ray Charles. Ray Charles is a groundbreaker in royalties and ownership of his creative material when he himself was not the proprietor of the recording industry. But the proprietors or owners of the recording and music industry let Ray Charles get extra, and he led the way for other artists to get extra. There's also sports athletes. Sports athletes used to basically have to really, really perfect their sport, become a great athlete, and then get a paycheck, but not much else. Michael Jordan paved the way for royalties for sports athletes. Soon after that, the man who scored the deal for Michael Jordan with Nike scored a court deal with some other people who advocated for college athletes. And now college athletes also earn royalties when their name or image or likeness is used to promote a college or a college sports team. Now we're talking about money, artists, and heart work. Most artists do their art from their heart. Most graphic designers learn a skill on a computer or using tools to manipulate someone else's art and make it a commercial product, such as for advertising, for clothing, for marketing for a company, or for marketing for an organization. Traditionally, the owners of the system, the owners of production, the owners of the plant, the owners of the property, the owners of the resources, the owners of the control of all these things controlled who got the money and how it happened. And it is a very heartless system. A system based upon I'm going to get mine and make you grovel to get yours. And at the end of the day, they try to make you a peon. They say, hey, you're a peon, which means a serf, not a surfer, a peon, the lowest of the low. And the only reason you got what you got is because we recognized you and we had a vision for your creative art, and then we turned it into a profit and we gave you a tiny bit. Then, like I said, with people like Ray Charles and Michael Jordan, and quite honestly, Chuck D and Flavor Flav of Public Enemy and the S1Ws, they recognized samples and beats and said, we have to recognize them and give them their slice too. And then you have different leaders of the industries. Some leaders of the industries give artists a car and a house and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, the producer's name is still on the house and the car, and the artist just gets to drive it and live in it. The new way, I believe led by Snoop Dogg and others, was to be an artist who took things over. Much like Grant Hill became a basketball NBA owner. And guess what happened thereafter? Snoop Dogg started putting the houses and the cars in the artist's name, and also teaching them how to build a house, how to set aside money for emergencies, for a heat pump, for that rainy day. He was not setting people up to fail and then be their only way back to safety and their lifeline. He's setting up people to help themselves and to learn the ins and outs and the insurance needed and all the different secrets that people hide from the artists, from us artists, because people think we're stupid, we're morons, we're idiots because we're quiet and we walk around staring at humanity and society saying, hey, what the fuck happened? Why did my friends turn into my enemies? Why did my family turn into my enemies? Why did the industry turn into my enemies? Until they get you on your knees and say, man, please. And then they try to help you. But really, in the end, they try to keep you from getting any of these. So if you're an artist and people stole your art and you're hurting and you found out, remember at the end of it all where evil people go and who they have to answer to. And I'm not talking about Capitol Hill or a government anywhere on earth or the Supreme Court. And that's that shit you can't use your money to buy your way out of. And you can't buy a person to come to your mansion and give you a massage and whatever you want else to forget about your ills and your evils and your aches that you caused in your own life as well as the lives of others. Now I'm going to take you on over to the Supreme Court. And what they do at the Supreme Court is different from state to state. But then the total Supreme Court's here in Washington, D.C. They decide the most top federal cases. And what you see on TV, well, that's what you see on TV when you fit it into your half an hour or 2 hours a day. Or however often you like to let your brain waste away with fake, construed, constructed, slanty, askewed versions of the North, East, West, and South. That's that news, North, East, West, South. And what you realize and learn, and it'll start to make you burn, is that the United States government lies to everyone at every turn so they can make money off of me and you, and then make more and more until you yearn to get yours. But all they want to do is get theirs, own you, and then make you buy a burial plot, a coffin, or an urn for when you're done. And then the mortuary and the cemetery and the religions get their turn. Of course, unless you're like me, homeless and almost useless, then they put you in the anonymous potter's bury field. You know, that cemetery where they put people who got nobody or nothing. And then they go steal your moving bin. They go steal your storage unit. They go to your government apartment and steal all your stuff and put it in a room and then sell it next year, in 50 years, in 100 years, in 200 years. Or they might even make up an entire book about art history, about artists they say was from hundreds of years ago, but really they were just from 75 or 100 years ago, because it's that new higher education where first you learn to get drunk and have sex on the weekends and fuck. Fornication under command of the king, fornication under command of the queen. And after you learn how to do that and become a bachelor or bachelorette, well, the next step is to be a master. Which brings us back to the USA and the red, white, and blue. And hey, how about the Supreme Court? Let's take it over there right now for you. Yeah. Hey, here's the jam though. If you stole art from an artist, normally when an artist gets a good contract, they get 10% of the royalties. But I think if you steal an artist's art, according to United States law, which I think needs to be adjusted for that situation, you get what I'm saying? Adjust it for that situation with United States or whatever international law. If you steal from an artist and then you put it on your products, you should have to pay the artist 90% royalties. And you as a stealer and thief of their art and artwork and their art and soul and their heart and soul with the gifts that God gave that artist to make art either with their hands, their eyes, their mouth, or their left foot, you got to pay us 90%, not 10%. And you barely get any shit, even though you are the big person who stole it and hurt us who do the hard work of the world, because we often don't get paid as artists ever. And Washington, D.C. likes to say, hey, it's punk rock. Get a job as a dishwasher or a cook in a restaurant, or be a plumber or a carpenter, or give massages, or be an escort, or be a teacher. What about pay the artists what they deserve when you steal it from them? So when you're out stealing art, you just stole a part of us, and you deserve to stop now. And I hope the government recognizes it in the future, and then the world recognizes it worldwide in the future. Because right now, artists are treated like shit, even though we're the ones who founded everything. Every brick, every logo, every design, every clothing pattern, every car you see was designed by an artist who got the short end of the stick, because the person who's good with numbers and resources and lying to people and actually paying people sub-minimum wage, they get paid usually, not us. And that's right here from Washington, D.C. My name is Nathaniel Shelhays Vizdos, May 22nd, 2025, still homeless years later in my home city, Washington, D.C.